Did you know that over 25,000 lives were lost building one of the most ambitious projects in history? The Panama Canal, a lifeline for global trade, didn't just connect two oceans, it came at a staggering human cost. Today, it's a vital route for ships worldwide, but its history is filled with ambition, betrayal, and sacrifice. Leaders gambled with lives, struck secret deals, and drove entire nations to their breaking point. Behind every stone and drop of water is a story of struggle, of people trapped between dreams of fortune and harsh reality. This is the hidden side of the Panama Canal, a legacy of power, exploitation, and the steep price of progress. The Panama Canal was born from an audacious dream, a passage that would link two mighty oceans, slashing 8,000 miles off the dangerous journey around Cape Horn and opening a new gateway for global trade. For ships, this meant a world of difference. For economies, a revolution was in sight. The canal wasn't just a route, it was a symbol of a new age of commerce and possibility. In the 1880s, the first bold attempt to bring this vision to life began with the French. Ferdinand de Lesseps, celebrated for his triumph with the Suez Canal, believed he could replicate his success here, linking the Atlantic and Pacific with a single sea-level canal. For de Lesseps, it wasn't just about trade, it was about cementing a legacy of progress and modernity, a project that would stand as a monument to human achievement. But the Panama had other plans. The impenetrable jungles, rugged mountains, and brutal, unpredictable weather of Central America weren't like anything de Lesseps had faced in Egypt. Yet, against all odds, he pressed on, rallying support and securing massive funding from the French government. Workers flooded into Panama, ready to make history. But little did they know they were stepping into one of the most treacherous undertakings the world had ever seen. Construction began in 1881 with high hopes, initially projected costs at around 1.2 billion francs, approximately $1.2 billion at that time. However, as the project progressed and faced numerous challenges, he revised this estimate down to 659 million francs, about $130 million at that time. But the French effort quickly descended into a nightmare. Tropical diseases like malaria and yellow fever swept through the workforce like wildfire. Workers, unprepared for the brutal conditions of Panama, fell sick within weeks, and many never returned home. Mosquitoes thrived in the sweltering heat, spreading illness and death across the camps. By 1889, over 22,000 lives had been claimed, with around 5,000 of them being French citizens. The harsh jungle, endless rain, and mounting deaths created a haunting atmosphere, while financial mismanagement drained resources at every turn. De Lesseps had gravely underestimated the challenges. His ambitious vision for a sea-level canal collapsed when engineers discovered that Panama's land had drastic elevation changes, rising and falling due to hills and mountains. To allow the ships a smooth passage, they would need a lock system to lift and lower them through the varying heights. As costs skyrocketed, morale hit rock bottom, and the investors turned against the project. By 1889, the French company collapsed, leaving behind a swamp of broken dreams, unmarked graves, and a sense of despair. This failure cast a long shadow over Panama, setting the stage for America to seize the dream and take over. The ambitions of American leaders ignited at the thought of controlling a canal that would supercharge their military strength and commercial reach. By the late 19th century, the United States was emerging as a global powerhouse, hungry to extend its influence in Latin America and secure faster trade routes. And at the heart of this drive stood President Theodore Roosevelt, a man determined to make the canal an American prize. To Roosevelt, an American-controlled canal wasn't just a goal, it was essential. A gateway for military power and economic expansion that would let the U.S. command the Atlantic and Pacific alike. The stakes were high, and Roosevelt wasn't one to shy away from bold actions. In 1903, he moved to secure Panama's independence from Colombia in a strategic power play, driven by hidden motives and the promise of control. Roosevelt would later declare, "I took the isthmus," capturing his relentless resolve to claim this vital passage. Just days after Panama's declaration of independence on November 3, 1903, swift negotiations led to the signing of the Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty. This deal handed the U.S. control of a 10-mile-wide strip of land, the Canal Zone, forever, giving America almost a free rein to govern it as it pleased. The original U.S. construction cost for the canal from 1903 to 1914 reached around $375 million, a staggering sum that included payments to the Panamanian government and the purchase of assets from the failed French effort. Adjusted for inflation, that figure skyrockets to nearly $4.4 billion today, highlighting the immense financial commitment behind this monumental project. Roosevelt's vision was no longer just a dream, it was now American territory, a symbol of ambition and power that would reshape the Western Hemisphere. This shift in power opened new doors, but it also hid the heavy human cost that would soon follow as the U.S. undertook the daunting task of building the canal. Under American control, building the canal became a brutal experience, especially for the Caribbean and indigenous workers who did the hardest jobs. Approximately 75,000 workers were hired for the project, with around 80% of them being Afro-Caribbean laborers recruited from places like Jamaica and Barbados. These men endured grueling hours in dangerous conditions. They were often subjected to harsh treatment by supervisors who prioritized speed over safety. The work was intense and dangerous. Workers spent long hours under scorching heat, clearing thick jungle, digging massive areas, and building complex locks. Many faced not only treacherous terrain, but also diseases like malaria and yellow fever that had previously killed thousands during the failed French attempt. Tragically, around 5,600 workers lost their lives due to accidents and sickness during the American construction. The death rate was alarming. Many died from the diseases before they could even finish their contracts. Medical care was often poor. Sick workers usually received little treatment or none at all when they fell ill. In response to these hardships, U.S. officials eventually improved sanitation and introduced mosquito control to fight disease. They drained swamps around work sites and set up hospitals for the sick. While these efforts made conditions better, they came too late for many who had already suffered or died due to neglect. But what was really behind the U.S. takeover of these complex projects? As construction began, deeper motives started to emerge. The U.S. takeover of the canal was much more than just an engineering project. It was a bold move filled with ambition and power. Behind the scenes, American business interests created a mix of economic reasons and political strategies that shaped how the canal was built. The U.S. government recognized that controlling this key trade route would bring huge benefits, not just for American companies, but also for national security during a time of fierce competition among world powers. By securing access to both oceans through Panama's canal, America could boost trade with Asia while keeping its military strong. When construction finished in 1914, American companies quickly rushed into Panama, eager to grab profitable contracts for shipping and to collect tolls from ships passing through the canal. This led to a financial grip on Panama, where local interests were often pushed aside for American profits. Despite promises made about Panamanian control after the canal was built, the reality was very different. U.S.-backed policies ensured that American dominance over Panama's economic resources continued long after the last shovel of dirt was moved, creating a lasting impact that shaped the region for many years. This brings us to a critical point regarding the hidden struggles Panama faced as it sought to reclaim its sovereignty. As the nation moved forward, the fight for true independence began to unveil a deeper story of resilience and resistance. The Panama Canal reshaped the nation's history, establishing decades of U.S. control over the canal zone and igniting deep resentment among Panamanians. They felt exploited by foreign powers reaping profits from their land while disregarding local rights. For much of the 20th century, Panama was caught in an informal colonial grip, where American authorities dictated governance despite its nominal independence since 1903. Creating a stark imbalance between locals seeking autonomy and foreign interests focused solely on profit. As tensions simmered, nationalist movements emerged, demanding sovereignty and redress for past injustices. A turning point came on January 9, 1964, when student protests against disrespect toward Panamanian symbols erupted into violent clashes with police, showcasing the frustration over foreign dominance. In response to the rising tide of nationalism and international pressure, the U.S. negotiated the Torrijos-Carter Treaties, signed on September 7, 1977. These agreements set a timeline for returning control of the Panama Canal to Panamanians, culminating in full sovereignty by December 31, 1999. This marked a crucial step toward reclaiming the autonomy lost during foreign rule, though debates about the fairness of the treaties continued to linger. As we reflect on the complex history surrounding one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements, the Panama Canal, it's important to remember those who were affected and the unfair treatment that went along with it. Thank you for exploring this often untold piece of history with us. It highlights just how essential it is to hear every voice. Together, let's create a future that uplifts everyone, not just a select few. Join us as we uncover these hidden stories and work towards a brighter tomorrow.